What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of Look at the Material podcast. I'm your host, BK, and today we are talking about the Texas Senate race once again. If you didn't catch last time, I was on live for like 4.5 hours unexpectedly talking about James Tellerico and Jasmine Crockett, looking at their websites, looking at some of the donors that they have been catching flack for having, et cetera, et cetera. YouTube blocked it. Well, actually, iHeartMedia actually blocked that video from even being posted. They snatched it off of YouTube. So I had to put it on Patreon. But I put it on there for free. You can join as a free member or you can join the family for $3 a month. Right now, I'm just putting free content up there. The two videos that are up there for free because I originally meant them for YouTube for free, and YouTube blocked it. So I put it over there for free, just to kind of be fair. Um, Definitely be on the lookout though, because I will be reacting to classic hip hop albums from the 70s to 2005. So if you haven't given your recommendations for that, definitely go to the community posts and put your recommendations there. I already have so many, and I'm going to organize them in chronological order, and that's how I'm going to react to them. So note that will be in the family. So that'll be paid content, $3 a month. I try to keep it low because I know it's hard out here. But since those full body album reactions are gonna take a lot, and I'm doing so many back to back to back, I figure, that should be accessible to, the exclusive family. So yeah, do all the things, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm not really posting that much on TikTok as much, which is why I'm here right now live on YouTube and not making a 10-minute TikTok video. Like, I just can't with TikTok right now. But we will be going on TikTok to look at some of the videos. So let's get into why I'm even going live right now. I have a couple disclaimers to get out of the way because we're waiting in those politic water. No politic here, no politic here. Like, it can get really touchy because of the identities that I hold and the ideologies I believe in. Sometimes that can just rub people the wrong way. So I want to get some disclaimers out of the way. I want to talk about how this race has heated up in the last 24 hours, 48 hours. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Okay, so these are my thoughts and my opinions about, the candidates, the races. I have been in Texas for 6 years this year. I was into local Louisiana politics in college and a little bit in high school. I was really involved there, but once I saw behind the curtain of like Southern politics in general, I was absolutely disillusioned with electoral politics as a whole, and just became one of those disaffected voters, you know what I mean? And just was overall jaded by the political system. There's a lot of people in Gen Z that can relate to that as well because, I was a Bernie bro in 2016, right? Like, you believe in like, oh, the Green New Deal and Medicare for All and Occupy Wall Street and all these movements. And then you see Democratic leadership fail you time and time again. And so as the years have gone on, I've been pushed further to the left, I think for good reason. Evidence-backed, data-backed, a human-first politic. And so that is the lens that I'm viewing politics through in general, but like even this whole conversation, right? Like, now I'm trying to get back, tap into, local, state, federal politics, but particularly local and state politics in terms of, potentially canvassing and volunteering if there's a candidate that I really am looking up to and looking into and believe in. Voting, paying attention to things like school board and comptroller and your constable and house rep and state rep and all this stuff. So I'm trying to get back involved in that. So I don't claim to be all knowing in terms of electoral politics. I don't even fully like wholeheartedly believe that solely electoral politics will get the people the means and the ends that they want. I just don't believe that. I think it's going to take a combination of tools in our toolbox in terms of citizens that have a civic duty to engage. And I think electoral politics is one tool in that toolbox. It's not the end all be all. And so I want to keep that in mind as well. I want to also reiterate, as I do always, because I always get accused of not doing this, but I did vote for Kamala in 2024. And I will be voting in the Texas primary on March 3rd, 2026. And I'm going to vote for whoever wins the primary in the general. I will unironically vote blue no matter who, because fuck Ken Paxton and fuck John Cornyn. And so, although I have that stance for the general, I don't have that stance for the primary. So I actually look at the media hits, read the interviews, see what the streets is saying, see what their town halls was looking like, see what their campaign websites are looking like. I'm trying to dig into the weeds to see which candidate do I want to pick to vote for in the primary. And so that's what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, past couple of months, really, excuse me, in this race. And it's been very interesting. And so some shit has cooked up in the last 24 hours, and we're gonna talk about it. But also before that, I just want to reiterate, I'm Black, I'm bisexual, and I'm a leftist. Let's start there. Like, remember that my litmus tests, my standards, et cetera, may be different than yours, and that's okay, right? That's okay. Maybe we can have a conversation about that, right? But that is the lens that I'm looking through. And no, I'm not expecting perfection, right? I'm starting with the baseline that all these niggas lie, all these niggas manipulate. I mean, you're a fucking politician, right? All these niggas have the gift of the gab. All these niggas have questionable voting records here or there. That's the baseline I'm starting with. And so, what is going to be the difference maker when I really split those hairs? If the baseline for me as a Black leftist in the South is that you're not really good on Palestine, neither of them. None of the candidates are. Like, we know that the Republicans are ghouls when it comes to foreign policy, domestic policy, when it comes to social safety nets and things like that. So that's a given that fucking Ken Paxton and John Cornyn and Wes Moore, whoever else is running, is no bueno. But when it comes to Jasmine and James, and we'll get to an article written by, I don't remember the author's name right now, but it's The Lone Star Left. And we'll get to that. They kind of break down, their policy positions. When it comes down to it, they don't meet my standards, my specific standards. And so putting that to the side, knowing I'm not going to get that, what else is going to be the difference maker, and what else is going to push me to actually cast my vote in the primary for that person? And so that's where I'm at. I also want to say, like, there is a creator economy in modern day politics as a form of new media, and I don't really have any issues with that. I'm new media, right? But I have caveats with that. There's some caveats with that. These creators tend to be really familiar with the candidates, their campaigns, and communications with them, doing promo, they're on message with them, whatever. I think that in this landscape, that's what's needed to help mobilize, especially young voters, to disseminate information about how politicians are working for us and how the government should be working for us. Like, I think in theory, all that is really great. But I think due to the nature of the platforms that are being used to do this work, sometimes it can just get into like a catty, gossipy, mudslinging, he said, she said. And I'm not necessarily saying that's exactly what's happening here, but I just feel like a lot of the pearl clutching is a bit too much. It's a bit too much, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Essentially, why we're here today, saying all that, y'all know I'm long-winded. Saying all that to say, there was a creator that made a video about an encounter she had with James Tallarico. Colin Allred made a video in response. Now, Colin Allred was running against Ted Cruz in the 2024 cycle, and his Republican light ass, his I'm running so that boys won't be in girls' sports head ass, run-of-the-mill establishment candidate head ass, run to the center, so really running to the right head ass. He also dropped out of this race once Jasmine put her hat in the ring. Colin was running for Senate too, and he had to fucking drop out. So he made a video in response to the creator's video. Jasmine made a statement in response to Allred and Tallarico, the blah, blah, blah. And then Tallarico made a statement. We're going to look into all of that. And then we're going to get into kind of my opinion of the whole thing. I'm going to plug the Lone Star Left, which is a Substack that has really been keeping me informed about the elections and like not just these two candidates. Or not just this Senate race, but other races, down ballot races, other measures in Texas that we should be paying attention to. So I'll plug them. I do also want to briefly talk about the debate, and I want to also look at Jasmine and James's websites, and that will close out our stream. So let's look at the material. First, we're going to go to TikTok, and we're going to look at the original creator's video. Then we'll go in order with Allred and then read the responses. So let me pull it up. Okay, here's the first TikTok. Hold on. I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, I didn't add it to the stage. Bear with me, y'all. Hi, everyone. Let me see. Hi, BK. Hope you're doing well. Hi. I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on the Grammys? Ooh. Wouldn't you like to know, Weather Boy? No, I'm being funny. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts about the Grammys very soon. So stay tuned. Okay. Here is the first video.
James Tallarico told me that he signed up to run against a mediocre black man, not a formidable and intelligent black woman. And I want to explain why this is problematic, especially as he shifted his current approach in the Texas Senate race. Now, before I get into the conversation that led to this comment, I want to put it out there that I supported Tallarico and planned on voting for him before Jasmine Crockett joined the race. I'm voting for James Tallarico. So I planned on voting for him when he was running against Colin Allred, the mediocre black man that he's referring to. Now, no matter how you feel about Colin Allred, the man is an attorney, a former professional football player, and a former congressman. But I'm not bringing this forward because I want to bring any more negativity to this race. I care way too much about Texas to do something like that. But I do think it is my responsibility to bring something like this forward. And I do think it also indicates some things that are pretty important when it comes to how he's moving with his campaign. The obvious intimidation of Jasmine Crockett, along with the racially charged disrespect of Colin Allred as a black man, indicates something deeper than just a overly familiar comment that is coded in a compliment for a black woman. This explained to me why he would jump at the opportunity to play victim at just the mere thought as anything other than positive being out about him. And it also explains why he would say something like attack ads is what she planned on doing when the actual video he's referring to says nothing of the sort. Using this language when you have the privilege of being a white man, when people across the political spectrum are also using the angry black woman that's aggressive trope to attack her, is microaggressive. That's why I previously stated that this is an indication of his insecurity around his candidacy, or it's indicating that he's had something to hide. So getting into the conversation that led to the comment from James, I was angry and concerned after receiving an email and a text message from James Carville on Tallarico's behalf for donations. James Carville is a Democratic strategist that has made comments recently about the need for Democrats to drop woke politics, and even wrote an article in November for the New York Times saying exactly that. And I'm always going to advocate for Black people because I don't care about how much you talk about affordability, housing, healthcare, or whatever. If woke politics is not included in that, which directly impacts Black people, then we're left out of that conversation and policy.
I wanted to stop real quick here. This idea that, I don't care about your policies on housing or climate, or basically I don't care about any progressive policies that you have. If woke politics is not a part of your politics, then like that's not going to work. On the surface, there's nothing wrong with that statement, because you obviously like woke politics is coded for black and brown, or equitable politics or whatever the case may be. Obviously, you want that to be centered, but I also don't want us to lose sight of the fact that excellent public policy that helps the working class inherently helps black people. And like we have to start thinking in a more macro sense like that. Like I think Democrats do a really good job of people were very much like Democrats are too woke. And I think what people were reacting to was they do a lot of symbolic progressive shit. Like we're going to do rainbow flags or we're going to wear kente cloth. But in their policies, they're voting for and crafting legislation that is disenfranchising those groups as well, right? Like we don't want a rainbow flag. We want trans kids to have access to healthcare, right? Like we don't want the kente cloth. We want equitable housing reform so that black communities that were redlined can actually, access wealth and housing. Like you know what I'm saying? Like drop the performative veneer of everything has to just be so perfectly crafted. I don't know if I'm like saying this correctly, but like, or saying this well, but it's just that little piece kind of caught my attention because I was just like, okay, but like more progressive policies will inherently help black people. Like those two things are not separate, in my opinion. But I feel like she's speaking specifically to James Carville's angle and like basically the center right in the party that are like, we need to throw trans kids under the bus and we need to drop the woke shit because, that's losing, elections. Obviously, I disagree with that. That's like a very bad faith read of the situation. And also, I don't really fuck with James Carville. He's one of ours. He's from the boot. You often will see him with his LSU hat and LSU sweatshirt and shit on. But the nigga is a ghoul. The nigga, I just don't think he's a really good strategist. I know he's really famous and connected and popular and lauded, but fuck James. Fuck James Carville. Like honestly, I think he's trafficking in politics of yesteryear and like yeah. So I don't have a dog in that fight in terms of James Carville, advising Tallarico's campaign, and also I saw like a interview he did with some other white guy and James Carville, and I was like, oh God, like just that flank of the party is so like rolls eyes. And again, I don't want to minimize if Tallarico says something microaggressive. It's just as a black person too, like on its surface, that just didn't read as microaggressive to me. Particularly because I am of the school of thought that Colin Allred is a mediocre candidate, like within the context of running for elected office, like what he stands for, principles, values, like the way that he, carries himself is very run of the mill, mediocre establishment. And so I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself because we'll read like the response to this, but I just kind of wanted to stop there and say that.
So I made that known to the campaign as someone that has a possibility of sitting in that seat. Now, up until this comment, the conversation was going well. That's why it threw me off so much to have a white man say this to a black woman who was coming to him with concerns in relation to him for black people. That is why the multiple people and news sources that have stated that he's working with Liz Smith, a consultant that's known for smearing competitors and campaigns, sounds credible to me, even though the campaign keeps saying that they're not, even though they've stated otherwise previously. Creators talk to him both individually and collectively, and multiple of us have caught them lying to us. Now, I stand by my statements that he's way better than Kim Paxton, who's the current frontrunner for Republicans, and a terror that we're trying to protect the rest of the country from. But this isn't someone I feel comfortable being in office when we have a truly amazing candidate like Jasmine Crockett as an option. So yes, I'm voting for Jasmine Crockett for Senate, and I encourage you to do so as well.
And I also want to stop there too, because we're going to get into a really good article by the Lone Star Left, but we're also going to get into their campaign websites. And it's like, when you really drill down on policy, which is what people are not really doing here, but when you really drill down on policy, Jasmine and James are like neck and neck with how liberal or moderate or progressive they are. They are. Like, when you look at the voting records, when you look at the rhetoric, when you look at like what policies they say they are gonna, vote for or be advocates for, James slightly has the edge on her because of his economically populist message that he's running on, the anti-billionaire, anti-corruption message that he's running on. But in terms of like they both want to send defensive weapons to Israel, right? Neither of them want to say abolish or defund ICE. Like there's certain things that they're kind of like neck and neck on. And so I don't know. I wish people would talk more about like the policy, like what policies they like from Jasmine. And not just that like she has really good rhetoric, which she does, against the MAGA flank. Like it has to be more than that. So anyway, that's the first video that went viral. And that's the one that actually what's his name? Colin stitched. This is also the one that you'll see quoted in the articles that we'll pull up later. I wanted to pull up another video from her, the second video, because people were kind of skeptical about like really the timing of this video. People were assuming she was paid to smear James or that she was paid by the Crockett campaign. I tend not to believe that, but you never know who's getting paid around here. I don't have any thoughts about that here or there. I know creators need to make their money, and those who talk about politics should be compensated for such. But I can't speak to if she was paid or not. I don't think she was. I do think that she shared this in good faith, but even people within Texas, may not believe that. But certainly people who are not in Texas, I could see how it just looks like a ninth hour desperate smear against someone who's actually gaining more traction than I think people thought he would. So let me just pull up her second video, which is basically like proof or receipts that like she's not lying about having this conversation with him. And it kind of just reveals, I wanted to show this too, because it kind of reveals, it kind of pulls back the curtain a little bit in regards to how creators interact with politicians, how they may be close enough to bring their concerns to the candidate more directly and more in an off the record way. Like being able to speak with the candidate off the record is huge. Like having that access, getting the invites to the town halls, getting the invites to the new media press conferences, that they be having. So I wanted to kind of showcase that as well. That and this kind of illustrates that. Now this is a
Hi, yes.
sorry, this is a 10-minute long video. Let me see if I can I 2x speed this? Damn. Okay.
To give some receipts in regards to me saying that James Hi, yes, happy to give some receipts in regards to me saying that James Tallarico called Colin Allred a mediocre black man in a one-on-one conversation that we had. So I'm going to walk you through kind of what this looked like and what led to this conversation so you all know what actually happened. So this is the photo I took with him at the town hall. It was on January 12th in Plano. And just to establish that we actually like know each other and like he knows who I am. He follows me on here on his account. We're like mutuals. So probably not for very long, but it's there. I also talk about going to his rally here in Dallas. It was in September, on September 18th. In this video, and this is a video I posted interviewing him at that same town hall in September. So okay, so as far as like the actual conversation is concerned, this is the staff person. This is the text thread I have with them. They have a creator program. The person that I'm speaking with runs that program. They send us stuff. They'll send us like press releases. They'll send us updates when he like has certain interviews or there's new numbers coming out as far as like, fundraising and stuff like that. And that's what this was. She sent me this update on his fundraising. And this was my response back because a lot of times when they're sending you things, they're wanting you to actually cover it. So just to add some additional context from the previous video, the response that I'm about to show you, I sent it to her because I was already upset about the James Carville email and text message, because I was already upset at the fact that this man that has said that we need to drop woke politics is now sending emails for donations on Tallarico's behalf. So, wasn't comfortable with it. I decided to take a step back from covering it on my page, and this is what I sent in response to her. Feel free to pause and look at it.
Now, mind you, I think that with this type of communications with the campaign staff or whatever, and bringing issues up like, hey, it's not a good look to have an anti-woke Democrat like James Carville sending out emails on behalf of the campaign and basically saying this just won't look good to Black voters, and like what's going on here, like does the campaign itself actually feel this way? Because a large swath of the Democratic base, especially the old school big D Democrats, they fuck with James Carville. You know what I mean? They fuck with uh, moderation a little bit. And it's just interesting. The establishment has been barking and saying we need to moderate, and it's just, to me, I don't think so. I think that the Democratic base has moved way more to the left than I think even the candidates realize. I think constituents, yes, even Democratic constituents in Texas want to hear abolish ICE. I think they want to hear universal health care. I think they want to hear more worker protections and labor protections. I think they want to hear about more universal housing security. Um, I think they don't want data centers in their backyard. I think they don't want pollution in their fucking air and water. I think they don't want AI surveillance in their workplaces. Like, I, I think these are kind of, to me, these are like moderate stances. Like, not this fucking like pussyfoot and shit that they be trafficking in, which is why I'm just like, I have a dog in this fight because I'm voting and I'm in Texas and I live in Jasmine's district, Jasmine Crockett's district and everything like that. But I'm like, nobody is going hard enough for me on either side. And so yeah, I'm just sitting and watching and reading and observing. Let's keep going.
This is her response to me saying, hey, didn't like this, not comfortable talking about this anymore because of it. She said, hey, let's hop on a call. I'm free for the rest of the day. So we get on the call. She tells me or tries to explain away the article basically. And it was like, oh, people are getting caught up in the headline and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I've read the article. This is not a headline thing. I don't like what I read. And I'm like, also don't like people co-opting woke the way they have from Black people. It really bothers me. And she tried to explain what was happening with them working.
And also just the general Democrats' read on the woke thing was so wrong. Like they're like, oh my God, Trump won again. That means that the average voter is actually a rabid fascist MAGA guy. And so we got to drop the woke shit because that's what lost us the election. And it's like, no, that's not a fair assessment. I do think, to her point, the right co opted the word woke from Black people. And then Democrats actually started using that shit. Unironically saying, yeah, we need to drop the woke. Like seriously using that as like a suggestion or whatever. And so that whole read from the Democratic Party is wrong. And I think Zohran Mamdani, although he's in New York, is a great example of that. Muslim immigrant socialist, polling at 1%, running on an economically populist message. He was unabashedly pro trans, pro Black and brown, pro Palestinian, like was kind of as lefty and woke as you can get, and absolutely shattered expectations, and actually peeled off 1 out of 10 Trump voters. Niggas had a whole MAGA for Memdani movement going on there. So I think, especially since the Democratic chair, Ken, whatever the fuck his name is, I want to say Ken Paxton. I know it's not. That's the AG here, but I can't think of his last name. But the chair of the DNC did not even release the autopsy for the 2024 election after running on saying, like, we need more transparency in the Democratic Party. So it's just like they won't even release the autopsy to show us actually why they lost. But everyone's coming out and saying it was woke, not the genocide that we saw in 4K, not the dementia-ridden Joe Biden that refused to step down and dared to run for re-election. None of that. Not listening to constituents. That wasn't it. It's fucking woke. Like, okay, give me a fucking break.
with Carville, whatever, however you say his name. And I was just kind of like, it's not really changing anything for me. So and I think she could kind of pick up on that. So she offered for me to have a one-on-one conversation with James directly, because she was like, I know I can say all this stuff, but it probably would mean more if it came from him. I was like, yeah, actually, yeah. So she was like, you can have the conversation on the record, you can have it off the record. And as far as just to explain my thought process while I was having this conversation with her, I didn't want to have the conversation on the record because this wasn't something I was trying to put out on my page. This was me less so coming as a content creator and more so coming as a voter and a advocate for my people and a potential constituent, because I'm like, he still has the ability to win this primary race. And if that's the case, then I want to know that he's going to be keeping Black people in mind and not subscribing to this thought process that James Carville keeps pushing, right?
Now, I want to be clear, that part, I think we're still good. I think we're above board. I think that's good. I think, especially considering that she's a creator that's in contact with the team, she gets this article, this article was sent, or the email was sent, or whatever. She says, oh shit, are you using the same anti woke language? Well, let me come to you off the record and say, that's not going to cut it. I don't like that. I don't think that's a good tactic. And also, is this how you truly believe? I know that's how James and that flank believes, but like, is this how you truly believe? I think that's fine. I think that's fine. And I think that it's a fair, question for him. I want to make that clear.
So I was like, I'd much rather do it off the record. So that's the reason why there's not a video from this conversation I had with James. And I wanted the conversation to be candid. So that's why I was like, I'm not really trying to like get talking points or anything like that. I want to hear straight up what he's going to tell me. So she offers this. I say, let me think about it. And, I'll follow up. And she's like, okay, cool. So she offers times where maybe we could have this conversation. It was like Plano, Austin, whatever. I couldn't do Austin, so I was like, Plano, that would be preferred. And this is what the message I sent. I was like, would it still be possible to have an off the record conversation with him? She says, yes, of course. And this is where we set up the actual conversation before the town hall. This is where she's like, I'm thinking before the town hall, we have 5 to 7 minutes during the creator, blah, 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 blah. And this is where she confirms it. Okay. So you see that timing, January 9th. If you need more receipts, this is me running late to meet with him. She's like, checking in. I was like, sorry, things were crazy. Getting back to you, one moment, because she called me. So walking in, sorry, we're moving. Who do you think we are? This person. All the people questioning what I'm saying. And even below here, I don't know if you can see it, but she's like, is there still a seat next to you? Because I'm sitting in the town hall. I didn't actually expect to do that, but I was there. So this is where the conversation actually happens, right? So this is where we had me, James, and the staff person in this room having this conversation.
Also, I don't know if people have been bringing this up, but something that I thought of was the reason it also kind of looks like a smear is that this happened in early to mid January. That's when this correspondence happened. But this video was dropped yesterday, February 1st. And so there might have been concern of like, okay, why now? What's up with that? I just thought of that when I saw the timestamp on that.
The conversation ended up being longer than that 5 to 7 minutes she ended up saying earlier. But the conversation started out as normal. Like, it's like pleasantries. We're giving the normal, like, how things are going, the campaigns, like how people are feeling, like that kind of stuff. Jasmine entering the race, like that kind of stuff. And then I get into the reason why I wanted to meet with him, which again, with me coming from a perspective of a voter as a Black person that has concerns about the affiliation I'm seeing from James Carville. I won't get into the like nitty gritty of the details because this video would be way too long, but I tell him what I've said. I'm like, I'm concerned about this. Woke politics cannot be separated from Black people because it's something that directly impacts our access to resources and all this other kind of stuff.
And I also think we need to define, like, if we're going to just use the bad faith co opted framing of woke, we do need to define what woke politics is. We need to define what woke politics is. Like, what are we saying when we say that? because we can't be having a conversation about woke politics and also talking about Colin Allred, who ran anti-trans ads against, while he was running against Ted Cruz. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not woke politics. Or is woke just code for black? Is that what it is? Because some people use woke as like the all-encompassing, like black, brown, LGBTQ, disabled, like all that, like people, But then I guess are some people just meaning woke as just black? Woke politics can't be separated from black people, but also then like what is that? What is black politics? Like what is that?
And I told him, I'm like, I'm concerned about you potentially trying to get black people's vote in order to get in office and then subscribing to this thought process that's going to put us to the side, even though you're advocating for things like affordability, health care, all that kind of stuff, right? And he was like, oh, you don't want me to be a sellout. I was like, pretty much, yeah. So that's where he goes into the like conversation of like, I care about black constituents. If I didn't care, I wouldn't be trying to like actively talk to them as voters right now, because the polls do not show that that's something um like it would be easy to pivot from that, because the polls are not great when it comes to Jasmine and James now that she's in the race. So the black vote is very much more heavy towards Jasmine. Is not a surprise to many people. So
Right.
he was acknowledging like, I could turn away from trying to speak to this audience, but choosing not to do that because it matters. So I'm like, cool, I hear you. A lot of other campaigns would have done that. So I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying. um, so then we start talking about like him and Jasmine specifically. So I'm like, talking about how tense things have gotten. There was conversations we had last fall where I told them like, hey, if Jasmine enters the race, I think it's a really good idea if you all put out a statement after she joins, because people are already saying racist and microaggressive things online, and I don't think it's going to help the race, and I don't think it's going to help you or her if people lean into this thinking you're condoning it. So I recommend that you all like put out something so that people can see that you are welcoming her into the race. Like this is not something that.
And mind you, not only did, he do this, every single time he is asked about Jasmine Crockett, because he's asked about her in every single media hit he does, he is always so conciliatory towards her and very like almost too much praise. Like sometimes I'll be like, damn, okay, this is like a race, like this is your opponent, fuck. But he took that care an extra mile, and on the record and in front of cameras and shit has always been conciliatory and been what's the word, just like kind and supportive. And he says that if she won the primary he would throw his entire support behind her. Like he's made that very clear every step of the race, which is good. He has not fanned the flames of saying she's not electable or feeding into the misogyny or whatever.
you know, is racism is not welcome here, basically. And that was conversations I had with his staff last fall. That is what he ended up doing. When she entered the race, he posted this video, welcome her into the race and trying to, set the tone basically. So, we talk about that a little bit. He's like, asking what the conversation's looking like publicly. We're talking about it. And that's when we start talking about the conversations about what races that they should have been in, because there's this conversation consistently of like James should have ran for governor, Jasmine for senate, or all that kind of stuff. And I tell him that, he was like, that is when he made the comment. He said, look, I signed up to run against a mediocre black man, not a formidable intelligent black woman. Now I'm going to say this, and this is something I actually factored into me not saying something at first, because when he said it, I kind of laughed it off, because I was like, it really threw me off. Like, considering the conversation we just had, I was like, oh, okay. Like, you know how like when you get thrown off and which is very much not like me. I'm very much somebody that like, I don't care the setting. Like, if somebody's saying something funky about black people, I'm gonna say something, but it
Again, I'm like that too. Like if somebody, especially my ears are fine tuned, my ears are fine tuned to like the dog whistles, the microaggressive comments. Like, and I'm not saying that like maybe there's some shit that I maybe could misinterpret or whatever. But when I heard that she said that he said that, I was like, I didn't really, my jaw stayed in place. Like I didn't, because Jasmine is a formidable candidate. She says so herself. She has the name recognition. She has the DC experience. Her whole fucking campaign launch video was just Trump saying her name a bunch of times. She is a formidable candidate. We're like, what are we talking about? And Colin is a mediocre candidate. We're not talking about how incredible it is that this black man became an attorney and a football player and a congressman and oh, he beat the odds and blah blah blah. Within the context of the political system, he is a mediocre candidate. It just so happens to be a black man. So I'm just like, I don't know. It's like, am I just not hearing what other people are hearing? I just feel like that's an accurate read of the field in an off the record conversation. And I think, like, I don't want to speak for this creator at all, but, you know, to her point, she, you know, kind of laughed it off and kind of was like, oh, okay. And it took her back and then ultimately decided for basically a month that it wasn't consequential enough to like say anything, you know? I don't know. And I think some of the areas are gray and some of the areas are a little blurry here. You know, like creator has off the record conversation with candidate, comes out with what he said a month later, and then he puts out a statement, and then Jasmine puts out a statement, and then Colin puts out a statement. It's a he said, she said clusterfuck. And it just feels like the people who are already going to vote for Jasmine are going to continue to vote for Jasmine. And James Tallarico's name recognition is like through the roof right now when it really wasn't before. So I don't know. It's just interesting. We're gonna have to watch how this plays out.
Really threw me off considering the conversation that we had just had, the reason I was there, that kind of thing. So in that moment, I did not say anything. But coming out of that conversation is when I started to be like, okay. So that is kind of how that conversation went. I quite literally have everything but like an actual like recording of him saying this.
Which is why it's tricky to even come forward like this because it just is a he said, she said. I don't believe she's lying. I don't believe she was paid. I think some things are a little gray and a little blurred here. But the fact that you don't have proof, like a recording or a video, it just makes it look like a targeted smear against him in the ninth hour before the primary, even though that's not what it is. It's easily being reframed as that because it's just like, okay, there's no audio, there's no video proof. He says that the conversation was mischaracterized, and that could be believable to people who are like, well, you did have the conversation like a month ago and you didn't say anything, so maybe you didn't even think at the time it was like, I don't know, there's just enough plausible deniability that I just feel like, well, what is the benefit of coming forward so publicly? And I wonder if it's just because she was a creator that said basically that she was going to vote for Tellerico and was kind of working with his team and stuff. Not working with his team, but you know, relaying information about him. I wonder if that's why she made this a public thing. Yeah, it's just interesting. We'll see how it plays out. Like I said,
I even have a video of me asking this question of him of like how he feels about race and how that factors into his policy at the town hall. So that is what happened. I did not come forward with this lightly. I knew people were going to question me because I don't have a literal recording of the conversation, but I really hope his team is not the reason why my IG account was deleted very shortly after posting this previous video.
okay, see, and then people were like, damn, do you feel like Team Tellerico really like pulled your account down? I don't know. That's a hefty accusation. I hope that didn't happen. But let's go to Colin Allred's response to her video next. I felt it was very very housewives coded. I saw this comment. This dude's talking about don't come for me unless I send for you. This is not Real Housewives of Atlanta, and you are not Kenya Moore. Literally, I'm like, what? Like, don't come for me unless I send for you. Mind you, he didn't even come for Colin. I mean, he made a shady comment off the record to a TikTok creator, but like, he didn't like come for Colin. Colin, you're not even in the race right now, my nigga. You're not even in the race. All right, here we go. Also, that's why I tend to kind of give the benefit of the doubt to James because I'm also kind of like, even if it is off the record, like, you know, that this is like a black TikTok creator, like, I wonder if it was a mischaracterization because it's like, I wonder, like, I want to know the tone and the context and like, it just sounds so. Even Jasmine Crockett says she's never heard him say anything racial. That's kind of how she said it. And like he just seems almost like too buttoned up, like even talking casually. So it just is an interesting thing for this to be like. I don't know. It's just interesting. He stayed complimenting her though. Hold on, I'm not even. I did this the last time.
Me that he signed up to run against a mediocre black man, not a formidable and intelligent black woman.
Morning, everybody. It's cold out here, and I got some steam coming off my head because I'm.
My bad, y'all. My bad. I'm new to this. I'm not true to this yet. I am new to this.
Just finished my workout. Got some steam coming out of my ears too. I understand that James Tallarico had the temerity and the audacity to say to a black woman that he had signed up to run against a mediocre black man, meaning me, not a formidable, intelligent black woman, meaning Jasmine Crockett. Let me just break this down into a few segments here. First of all, let me just give you some free advice, James. If you want to compliment black women, just do it. Just do it. Don't do it while also tearing down a black man. Okay? We've seen that play before. We're sick and tired of it. We're tired of folks using praise for black women to mask criticism for black men. That's not good.
I just don't. Okay, I. This is also my thing too. Is that I feel like large generalizations are made, and it's like all we've seen is James praise Jasmine, right? And he made a shady offhanded comment, potentially, according to the creator, in early January, and that's about it. Crockett herself says she has not heard him or known him to, even be that type of white guy. And let's be honest, all of us are conditioned under this kind of, how do I want to say, like anti-blackness. We're all conditioned and groomed under anti-blackness. And that obviously does not exclude white people. And so, like, I'm not here to say if a white person is or is not racist. Like, I basically just assume all white people and non-black people are going to be racist because of the way that our society grooms and conditions in our media, in our literature, in the stories that we tell, in our movies, like in our policy, in the way that we incarcerate and demonize and criminalize black people. Like, of course, there's going to be latent anti-blackness. There's going to be an too overly familiar white boy, or maybe a quirked up white boy here or there. Like that is also the reality. And so I wonder if this was kind of a bad faith interpretation of an overly familiar comment. Was this actually racism and microaggression, which I don't believe it to be? Not that I'm just caping for James. It's just that given his record, I just feel like it seems so out of character from what he's like presented, but you know, it was an off the record conversation that we can't confirm nor deny. It's just, this is just a lot.
Good for our community. It's not good. It doesn't work, and we know what you're doing. Okay, so if you next time you want to praise a black woman, just do that. Leave black men out of it. Just leave.
But that's the thing, and these sweeping generalizations, leave black men out of it. He did not make a sweeping statement about black men. He talked about you, Colin. He talked about you, allegedly. And so in your campaign, he did not make he has not gone on the campaign trail and thrown black men under the bus and praised Jasmine Crockett. That is like a bad faith interpretation of his campaign to blow up, whether this account from the creator is false or true, to like blow it up and make a sweeping generalization about his character in that way. I just feel like it's bad faith, you know, and it's opportunistic.
A lot of things out of it. Second of all, did you ever have a coach or somebody, you know, a leader in your life tell you that when you make an accusation, you often have a bit of confession in it?
This is so messy. This is so messy.
Maybe you use the word mediocre because there was something creeping into your mind about yourself. Because I know you're not talking about somebody who's been better at 3 things than you've ever been at 1. You are not saving religion for the Democratic Party or the left. We already had Senator Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock for that. We don't need.
So we can only have one? We can only have one Democrat talk about they love for God?
Because I know you're not talking.
Because look at this.
Woman, just do that. Do you ever have a coach or somebody, you know, a leader in your life tell you that when you make an accusation, you often have a bit of confession in it? Maybe you use the word mediocre because there was something creeping into your mind about yourself. Because I know you're not talking about somebody who's been better at 3 things than you've ever been at 1.
He said, I know you're not talking about someone who's been better at 3 things than you have been at 1, and then starts talking about Raphael Warnock. What 3 things has Colin Allred been better at than James? Are you talking about literally being a fucking NFL football player, my nigga? Well, yeah, you got him there. But like, what does that really say? Somebody said the dirt is not that deep to go in like this. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is being treated like it's a goddamn like scandal for real. I'm like, am I just like a cynic when it comes to politics? It's gonna be a little shade, it's gonna be a little mudslinging. Oh my God, maybe something had a little texture to it, but like the way we are pearl clutching, I'm so confused. Did he ever list what 3 things he was better at?
You are not saving religion for the Democratic Party or the left. We already had Senator.
You are not saving Christianity for the Democratic Party and the left. I will say that James Tallarico currently is probably one of the party's best messengers against Christian nationalism as a seminarian himself. And I think maybe Raphael also does the same thing. I don't really, you know, I haven't kept up too much with Raphael in some years now, but I think that it is good to have someone saying, I'm pro-choice because I don't believe the government should encroach on a woman's autonomy. Like, yes, I'm a Christian, but I'm pro-choice. Him fighting to keep the 10 Commandments out of Texas classrooms. That is objectively an important role for this Christian politician. Like, you don't just say, hey, we already got Raphael, check, we don't need you. What? We definitely need that in Texas. They're trying to indoctrinate our children with fucking Christianity. And some of the first videos I saw viral, that went viral of Tallarico, was of him barking down his Republican colleagues and being like, this is so anti-Christian to make an idol out of Jesus and put it in the classroom. Somebody said he's going at him harder than he did with Cruz. What the fuck is this? I'm like, Colin, I ain't never seen you come out your skin like this. I saw you sitting up there with your little plastered ass smile talking about no more boys in the girls' sports. Do you even give a fuck about youth sports, nigga? Really? Really? Oh, don't even get me on that path. Let's go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock for that. We don't need you. You're not saying anything unique. You're just saying it looking like you do. Okay?
So we don't need a united front. We don't need a united front in terms of messaging against Christian nationalism in the Democratic Party. We only need it from one person. What is the fucking logic of that?
And third of all, let me just say to all the young Black men out there, all the young men who come from tough background, struggle growing up, who maybe think that someday you want to put yourself forward as a leader in your community.
Well, hopefully you don't put yourself forward as a leader in the community as being an anti-trans bigot. Hopefully you don't put yourself, like, I'm sorry, y'all just being Black is not enough. There are so many Black ops, no pun intended. Fuck. There are so many Black people that want to uphold the establishment. I do not want you to grow up wanting to be the Vice President of the United States of America. I don't want little Black kids to grow up and be like, I want to be top genocidaire, top imperialist, Black excellence. No, I don't want our Black babies looking up to y'all. I really don't. I really fucking don't. Like, don't just step up to lead your community. What are you leading them to? What are you leading them to? You can't just be qualified off the strength of you being Black. And it's like, Colin, remember he was, let me hush, child. Let me hush.
It's going to have haters like this are going to show up. Okay? And you're going to feel like you have to be twice as good and jump twice as high and talk twice as well. But you don't have to. You can walk out there with your shoulders back and your head held up high, knowing who you are and the value that you bring.
And this is why this type of messaging is so sinister, because there's like truths woven in this type of rhetoric. It is true. And same even with the whole Jasmine Crockett thing of like, okay, well, there's misogynoir, there's racism and sexism being wielded against her. Yes, that's true. Same with Kamala Harris. There's racism that Black candidates are going to face. There are privileges that white candidates and white people in general have that Black people don't have. We know this all to be true, but there's nuance. There's nuance there. The fact that racism and misogynoir exists doesn't just give you carte blanche to do whatever you want and say whatever you want and vote however you want with no accountability. Like voting to send more aid to Israel, voting to take money away from the ICC that has an arrest warrant out for Benjamin Netanyahu's arrest. Right? Like being complicit in genocide. Upholding the establishment that inherently is just not working well for Black people or working class people as a whole. Like, what are you doing with the power and the position that you have? Truly, what's going on there? It can't just be Black, check, and any criticism against them is fucking racism. Could this been a shady, underhanded comment that had a little bit of over familiarity? Sure, yes, allegedly, whatever. But is this a fucking truth nuke expose, blah, blah, again, everything? No, everything, every criticism I've seen against Jasmine Crockett has been called racist. Anybody who says they're voting for Tallarico has been called racist. Like, seriously. No talk about political strategy, no talk about policy, no talk about the fact that Crockett doesn't have an issues tab on her website, but James does. No real talk about like how they're different or the same policy-wise. Just don't talk about her on your podcast because that's racist. Y'all, what are we doing here? Go on, Colin.
and understanding that this comes with the territory and that there's going to be folks like this. And when we see them, we should say thank you. Thank you for taking off the mask. Thank you for telling us who you really are and what you really think. And goodbye, okay? Because we're on our way and we don't need you to come with us and we don't need your help to get there. So with that being said, go vote for Jasmine Crockett. This man should not be our nominee for the United States Senate. I wasn't going to get involved in this race, but
So he shouldn't be the nominee for United States Senate because he says something that hurts your fifis. Got it.
listen, don't come for me unless I send for you. Okay, James? And keep my name out of your mouth while you're at it.
James Talarico told me that
He thought he ate that. Oh my God, he thought he ate that. Don't come for me unless I send for you, James, and keep my name out of your mouth while you're at it. Vote for Jasmine Crockett. I'm like, I would not want your old bowling ball headed ass to fucking endorse me, bitch. Hell nah. The nigga that tried to run as a Republican light against Ted Cruz and still lost? Hell nah. I'd be like, baby, if you want to vote for me and fundraise for me behind the scenes, do that. But baby, don't come over here with that. But here he goes. Womp womp. Okay. We're gonna read Talarico's statement and Jasmine's statement on all this because, of course, right? I don't want to leave no stone unturned, and I'm gonna make sure that I actually put the shit on the screen. Like, I'm sorry, I'm like in my boomer era, in my auntie era. Like, I don't know. Okay, this is the statement from Talarico on. It was released on Monday, February 2nd. What time is it? Okay, I can still hang out a little bit longer with y'all. We're chopping through it. Official statement from James Talarico on All Red Video. Quote, this is a mischaracterization of a private conversation. In my praise of Congresswoman Crockett, I described Congressman Allred's method of campaigning as mediocre. Now, if that's what he said, that his method of campaigning was mediocre, then he didn't tell no lie. But his life and service are not. I would never attack him on the basis of race. As a Black man in America, Congressman Allred has had to work twice as hard to get where he is. I understand how my critique of the congressman's campaign could be interpreted given this country's painful legacy of racism, and I care deeply about the impact my words have on others. I have always said that despite our disagreements, I deeply respect Congressman Allred. We're all on the same team. I thought that was short, sweet, to the point. It didn't overly try to prove, like, I swear I'm not a racist. You know, I felt like this was appropriate. He owned saying, hey, I did say mediocre, but it didn't have nothing to do with the nigga being Black. I said his method of campaigning was mediocre, which it was. And also that same technique of running to the center and running to the right lost the Democrats the election in 2024 as well. So I'm not surprised that Colin lost his race as well, because who wants to vote for Republican light when they can get the real thing? Who wants Diet Coke? Even though I know y'all love Diet Coke, when you can get the real thing. And then immediately under this, you see the APAC tracker for Colin Allred. Yeah, fuck Colin Allred. And you see down here, I love that the APAC tracker is now tracking more than just APAC, because there are more PACs that the Israel lobby donates. If you see here in the fine print, they say received from the pro-Israel lobby, APAC, DMFI, JAC, like Jack, J Street, MDACC, and more. So that's the person that just endorsed Jasmine Crockett. Okay, this was Crockett's statement. And I think, let me see, she did this. It seems like she did her statement first. Okay, here we go. It's unfortunate that at the start of Black History Month, this is what we're facing. In former Congressman Colin Allred's video, he drew a line in the sand. He made it clear that he did not take allegations of an attack on him as simply another day in the neighborhood. But more importantly, his post wasn't just about himself. It was a moment that he decided to stand for all people who have been targeted and talked about in a demeaning way. Was he talked about in a demeaning way? I guess it's the way they're interpreting it. As our country continues to be divided, we must all stand, especially when it feels uncomfortable, to say what is right and what is wrong, except for when it's apartheid in the state of Israel, though, right? which, mind you, neither candidates have called it apartheid either, but we'll get to that. I've known Colin Allred since before either of us had been elected to office. I campaigned for him in 2018 when he flipped a Republican seat. We've worked together in the United States House of Representatives, where he has a stellar record of achievement delivering for North Texas. And I campaigned for him when he was the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate in 2024. Oh, so she campaigned for Colin. I guess he was the only Democrat going against Cruz, though. So that makes sense. And they know each other. If you know him, like, and then that's the thing too, it's like you campaigned for him, but it's like you worked on a campaign that ran like anti-trans ads. Like, I don't know. It just gets really sticky with that shit. I remember seeing that shit on my TV, guys. Mind you, I'm literally in Texas. I'm literally in Jasmine Crockett's district. When we were watching like cable, we were watching like basketball games and shit like that. When the commercials would come on, we would see Colin Allred's bowling ball head ass being like, "I will vow to keep boys out of the girls' locker room." Chop. What do y'all have to say about that? And mind you, you know that there are Black trans people. Like, these are not separate issues. There are Black trans people. There are Black poor people. There are Black workers. There are Black gay people. There are Black people impacted by the climate crisis. There are Black people that are impacted by wealth inequality. So when you address the public policy that Black people disproportionately are going to be, left out of, when you bridge that gap, your policy is pro-Black people. It doesn't have to be criminal justice reform. Like, we know that we know about mass incarceration and shit like that, but like saying criminal justice reform is also just coded for Black, when we need to be having a more universal view of education, healthcare, housing, climate, as it relates to Black people as well. Jesus. Okay, here we go. She continues by saying, "If you know him like I do, you know he's an even-tempered, measured person who doesn't engage in pettiness. The times I've known he was heated is when it's a fight worth having." Is this a fight worth having? I think he might be a little jealous that somebody in the race that he not. I'm sorry. He knows how to protect healthcare and fight for affordability. So does James. James capped insulin at $25 a month in Texas. Like, what are we talking about? Like, on January 6th, Colin was ready to physically fight to defend our democracy from insurrectionists. I do remember that. Who stormed the Capitol unafraid and undeterred. I appreciate the support of my candidacy and his measured attempt to try and stay out of the primary as the most recent nominee. I look forward to continuing to build on our strong working relationship for the betterment of Texas and pray that we can pull together and know that the Republicans are the ones hurting us the most, and it's time for Texas to get leaders who will focus on them. She did something that she has done a lot in this race, which is literally not mention his name at all. And I think Tallarico was really benefiting from the fact that, Crockett was really benefiting from the fact that James Tallarico had little to no name recognition. And I know he's been kind of picking up on his media hits. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience. He was on The View. He actually did a sit-down interview with a local YouTuber. Both him and Jasmine did on separate occasions. And I'll make sure to try to link that in the description, because I feel like the interviewer went harder on him than she went on Jasmine. And it actually kind of made his video more policy focused, and a bit more strong and focused on like how he was going to actually serve Texans, and fleshing out his political reform blueprint and stuff like that. Really, it was focused on policy, and that's what I feel like James Tallarico benefits from being a policy wonk. That's how he describes himself. He described himself as that in the debate. Someone who really drills down on public policy. I'm a public policy nerd as well. So was Zoran. He ran his campaign like that too. Lena Khan is a public policy nerd as well. Digging into the weeds of what policies can actually be enacted to benefit working class people. And that's ultimately what puts Tallarico over the edge for me too. Rhetorically, I feel like he's better in terms of, going up not only just against billionaires generally, but Texas billionaires and the oligarchs that are like in the federal government, but then also running on overturning Citizens United, running on banning insider trading and stock trading for members of Congress, banning super PACs, banning federal gerrymandering. I can list off the policies, the anti-corruption, anti-billionaire policies that he's running on. I can't list off the policies that Jasmine's running on. I know that she's been like a troll to the MAGA people within the ranks. She mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene on her website, and I'm like, girl, she's not even in office anymore. Like, she's really good rhetorically. She did good rhetorically during the Doge shit. She's a great attorney. But in terms of what policies are you running on that's going to support Texans and the working class in Texas, like, I just haven't seen that. And if it's there, it's not being broadcasted well, and it's not being like publicly communicated well. And that's also a failure on the campaign strategically. And so I think Tallarico also benefited from immediately coming into the race and being like, I won't take AIPAC money because I know AIPAC is a poison pill. People latched onto that, which is good. It was good that he made that statement. But he still wants to vote to send defensive weapons to Israel, just like Jasmine, right? But rhetorically, he's better on that, right? Strategically, he got ahead of that, right? So these are the things that, from a poli-sci perspective, I'm looking at. Because if the baseline is they all lie, they all cheat, they're all full of shit, they all have kind of questionable policies, what's gonna split the hairs for me? And so that's what it is for me. Let me see. He's talking a nice game. I just don't think he's going to fight. I need to see some dog in him. I would love for him to unbutton a little bit and unclench a little bit. I always say he want a rare white boy. I think rhetoric is only one part of it. If you're barking, but then AIPAC writes a letter and says, thank you for your vote. Sure, you didn't take the AIPAC money, but goddamn, AIPAC seems to sure be happy that you voted the way you voted. You barking down Trump, but you're voting to confirm his appointees. I mean, yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I think I agree. I would love to see him unclench a little bit more. He got that just establishment tone and tenor, like a Beto O'Rourke, like a Pete Buttigieg, and I'm like, ooh, girl, just get a little something, But I think that he does have the fight in him, and he's shown that because he's been an elected official in probably one of the hardest environments for a Democrat, in the Texas legislature. Like, he's quite literally had to go toe to toe with some of the worst Republicans in the country. Not only like working with them across the aisle, but like arguing them down on the floor. So, I mean, we could go clip for clip. I mean, you know what I mean? Diego, I do think trans women shouldn't be allowed in women's restrooms. That's a no for me. That's a transphobic statement from my worldview. And to be completely honest, you wouldn't know if a trans woman was in the women's restroom unless you checked her genitals, and then you would be the weirdo. Trust me, you do not want trans women going into the men's restroom, and you do not want trans men going into the women's restroom. And that's the thing. People always exclusively talk about trans women, and they never mention trans men. Have you seen a trans man? It would never be expected for a trans man to go into the women's bathroom. Because the women would scream, oh my God, there's a man in here. And vice versa. Niggas are going in there to shit and piss. That's it. Because men who want to attack and rape women do that regardless. They don't need to fake it to do that. So that's what I'll say on that. That's what I say on dates. Okay, so this is funny. Okay, so I'm not going to read these two articles, but what I wanted to do is just show you how much name recognition James Tallarico has now on a national scale, because I literally just typed Tallarico and Politico article came up, CNN article came up. Like, a mediocre comment has put Tallarico's Texas Senate campaign in the hot seat. Now, like, literally, if I'm Tallarico, I would be like, hey, it's a little sticky press, but it's name recognition. And when people kind of look into the weeds of the scenario, it's like, I'm not here to say if the creator was being, you know, truthful or not, or if it was strategic or not. But the average onlooker is now looking at the situation like, okay, so he said some mean words off the record according to a TikTok creator. And what's going on? Like, and what else? Who is this guy? Oh shit, let me look at his website. Oh, like, I think, again, this is why Jasmine up until this point hasn't really been saying his name. She said Trump's name, she said John Cornyn's name, or I don't even think she said Ken Paxton's name. She said Wes Moore's name, the black Republican that's running, who has absolutely no motion. Black man running, like I'm a pro-Trump Republican, that type of nigga. Girl, spooky out here. And you know, either you knew Tallarico or you didn't, you know, and I just feel like, I mean, this Politico article is huge. They basically just talk about the creator who you know, made the allegation. They talk about Tallarico's response, and then they talk about Allred's and Crockett's statement as well. And you know what's so crazy is that they also mention here, in the latest online explosion related to the primary last month, the host of popular podcast Las Culturales, or what is it? Las Culturistas, urged people not to send money to Crockett because she had a history of making it too obviously about herself. A comment from host Matt, and he also said that she was too well defined. A comment from host Matt Rogers that co-host Bowen Yang agreed with. Some of her supporters said the remarks were racist and misogynistic, setting off a fierce debate about what type of Democratic candidate can do well in red states like Texas. The host later apologized. Now, let me tell you something. Wes Hunt. What did I say? Wes Moore? Who is Wes Moore? Was Wes Moore the nigga from Alabama that dated that was like, I'm for child marriage? Let me see. Thank y'all for correcting me. And also Ken Martin was the chair of the Democratic Party. Don't allow. Let me see. Oh, Wes Moore is the governor of Maryland, and I think he's also been in some hot water about some shit. I confused them. But yes, I wanted to go back to this moment. So the podcasters were basically like, you know, she's too well defined, and I also mentioned, let me see if I can quickly pull it up. I'm going to I'm gonna pull it up because I just thought, like, if we were really making podcasters apologize like for what they say on their own podcast, like, what are we doing? Okay, here we go. I'm gonna remove this because I mentioned this on Patreon, but I know that a lot of people didn't see that one. Let me just pull this up real quick because I thought a lot of the shit that I've been seeing with this race of people being like, oh, it's racist, it's misogynist. They are almost muddying the word so much and like watering the word down so much that like it's either everything is fucking racist or misogynist or nothing is, bro. Like, it's just not being used properly. Like, just because somebody says something that you don't fucking like doesn't make it racist if the person's black. Like, if it's actually racist, call it out. But like, if it's not, stop saying that. So this is what the nigga said, bro. Podcast host dude, Las Culturistas. I don't watch this shit. Didn't even really know who these people were up until this happened and they apologized. Okay, this is what had everybody's panties in a bunch, and then we're gonna play the other one too.
Anytime a politician is making it too obviously about themselves, I'm already
Oh,
done.
we're
And
out.
don't waste your money sending to Jasmine Crockett. Do not do it.
I must agree.
Don't do it. You're gonna waste your money.
Okay, that was the comment. And I will say, when you look at the campaign launch videos, one is all about her, and the other is like, this is what I'll do to serve Texans. Rhetorically, that response, talking about Texans and talking about billionaires and blah, blah, that is rhetorically and strategically better than making a campaign ad that's literally just you staring at the camera and Trump calling you dumb. Saying, no one even cared about this race until I jumped in. And of course, it's me. Of course I should win. Put the policies in the bag, bro. This is the second comment that he made that added more context to what he said about why he doesn't think that you should send money to Jasmine Crockett.
Let me just qualify the Jasmine Crockett thing. She's not going to win a Senate seat in Texas, you guys. Like, if Beto O'Rourke couldn't do it, like, Jasmine Crockett is not going to do it. She is.
Let me pause right there. He said if Beto O'Rourke couldn't do it, Jasmine Crockett can't do it. Did he name another Black person? So when we're talking about electability, some people are using that as code for Black and white, but some people are actually talking about electability based on strategy and your platform and the base's responsiveness to you. He mentioned Beto. He's like, if Beto couldn't do it, like if Beto could not with his rolling up the sleeves, I'm about to flip Texas blue. If he couldn't do it, then maybe she can't do it. Maybe she'll win the primary, but how will she do in the general against a Ken Paxton? It's not a given. It's kind of an uphill battle for her.
And it's nothing against her. It's just that she is a politician and that she is like, very well defined already. And I think it's my opinion that we are going to need someone who is less defined at this moment that then rises up. Like, I'm interested in this Tallarico guy from Texas.
Oh, I don't know him.
I'm just interested in him.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I haven't seen him before. It would be hard for them to define him as anything other than what he is, which is like a rising Democratic politician from someplace like Texas, who is like, yes, speaking a little bit to the middle, but at least he's someone that like we can't define already.
Okay.
You know what?
Okay, a couple things. When they say that Tallarico speaks to the middle, I always kind of get a little confused about that, because I feel like the way that he's bridging the gap with independents and moderates, it's by drilling down on being against corruption and for democracy, being against billionaires and being for the working class. I think that's the great uniter. Like I don't, maybe I'm missing something, but it's just like, I think maybe people could put him in that category because of like how he talks and what he looks like and how he dresses and shit. Like he's just very like, buttoned up. But I also agree with Matt in that there's establishment candidates that are well defined in terms of, we think of the big D Democrat. We think of Kamala, we think of Biden, we think of Waltz, we think of the 2024 election, and we think of Gaza when we think of you. Like all of them that have that establishment stench on them, the base isn't really hungry for that. It's why people saw AOC Trump voters, Zoran Trump voters, Bernie Trump voters, and I wonder if there will be any Tallarico Trump voters. Because people want an insurgent to come and smash the status quo. They don't want to be reminded of the status quo. And I think that's all Matt was saying here. But because people want to be stands about politicians and they want to get their fifis hurt and they don't want to take it seriously and just talk about policy and strategy, we make podcasters apologize for having an opinion. What are we doing here?
What I mean, like Gavin Newsom is defined.
Yeah.
I believe Jasmine Crockett is defined.
Yep.
Like, I'm just trying to win here, and I really feel differently than we did in 2016. Like the way to win now is to like go with the energy.
And like that's I think what he's speaking to is liberals and centrists and establishment Dems need to stop pushing the status quo. Like they're really still trying to push Gavin as a potential candidate, for president. And it's like, no, we cannot do more of the same. And it has to be more than just rhetoric, But this is what they have to fucking apologize for. And that's actually what was mentioned in that Politico interview. Someone said, isn't it normal for a politician to talk about themselves when starting a campaign? Like we should know about the person we are voting on. Yes, but that should not be the end all be all to your campaign. Yes, you have to say, hi, my name is, this is where I'm from, whatever. And then you have to talk about policy at a certain point. It can't just be about, hey, look, I trolled Marjorie Taylor Greene really well and sold blonde butch bad built body shirts on my website. Like it's got to be more than that, and let's go ahead and go. Oh yeah, there also was another article. We're almost heading to the end of the live here. There was another article from CNN. Texas Senate candidate James Tallarico's campaign roiled as he denies referring to ex-rival as mediocre black man. So again, it's just another media hit, and then because Tallarico responded basically within hours of the shit being released, his statements are also in the coverage of, this incident, this allegation. I was shopping for Mardi Gras stuff, y'all. Oh my God, I did it again! Oh, I did it again. Oh, there's the headline. I already fucking read it. Oh my God. And then whoever sold my data exposing that I'm shopping for Mardi Gras shit. Mardi Gras is coming up though, y'all. So let me know if y'all want any like Mardi Gras content. I don't even know what I would do, but let me know. I'm gonna be posting. So yeah, this is just another just kind of talking about the event. But I wanted to, bring this up to show like, hey, even CNN wrote about this. Which is just crazy. Growing pains. Bear with me. Auntie just trying this for the first time. All right, so to wrap it up, I wanted to plug the Lone Star Left. If you are interested in keeping up with this race, but particularly if you live in Texas and you want to know from a left-wing perspective what's going on in Texas in terms of local elections, candidates to watch out for, a more leftist lens and viewpoint and praxis when it comes to digesting what these headlines are telling you, I would definitely suggest subscribing to the Lone Star Left on Substack. Now, I tried to pull it up on my Google Chrome browser, but it's saying I need to download the Substack app. I'm not finna do all that. So we're just gonna open up my email because I also get the articles sent to my email. I'm not gonna show anything crazy. Don't worry. Okay. And I wanted to just bring this to y'all's attention, especially, like I said, especially if you are in Texas and you're a leftist like me, or you're more left wing and you want to just keep up with, what's going on, particularly heading into the Texas primary. This was an article that was released January 26th. Is this one more? Okay. This is actually about the debate, but that's actually not the one I want to show y'all first. Let me show you the one that came first in my inbox. Tallarico, Crockett, and the Democratic base on Israel and Palestine. I wanted to just bring this up, and I'll make sure to make sure I actually put it on the stage. Okay, here we go, guys. Okay, Tallarico, Crockett, and the Democratic base on Israel and Palestine. Why this debate is really about movement, not purity. Oh, the author is Michelle H. Davis. Michelle H. Davis, bitch, you are doing some good ass fucking work. And so yeah. So basically, I wanted to just highlight this because there's been online discourse about James and Jasmine in terms of Israel. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I will put a link in the description. The online discourse over the last month regarding James Tallarico, Jasmine Crockett, and Israel Palestine has focused on who failed the left, when the more important question is who can still be moved. While the moderates and liberals want you to believe that this is not an issue that voters care about, we do have Pew Research Center data. And basically they add all of these data points from the Pew Research Center that has showed that across the board, unfavorable opinions of Israel have grown, especially among Democrats and especially among older Democrats. So this isn't just an issue that the online left cares about. 71% of Democrats under the age of 50 have an unfavorable view of Israel. And they go on to say that the purpose of this article is not to assign purity scores, right? It's basically just to say, what do these candidates believe? Where do they diverge, right? And they say, what do conservatives want for Israel Palestine, right? They say, what do Democratic voters want for Israel Palestine? They go, what does the far left want for Israel Palestine? Jasmine Crockett's history with Palestine. Crockett does support Israel. She's voted for foreign aid packages that include military assistance to Israel, supported resolutions framing Israel's actions as self-defense, and affirmed the U.S.-Israel alliance even after large-scale Palestinian civilian deaths. Crockett frequently frames her position as supporting Israel's security while pushing for humanitarian protections and ceasefire language. She is not taking money for AIPAC. However, she has been widely criticized for saying that the relationship between the U.S. and Israel has existed long before she was born and it will exist long after she's gone. So she doesn't want to seek to change the nature of the relationship with Israel or end it because they're a genocidal apartheid colonial state. But she just says, hey, it's always existed, and so it'll exist after I'm gone. This is also her in 2023 before October 7th, a couple months before October 7th, visiting Israel with the U.S. Democratic Congressional Delegation organized by AIPAC. So no, she didn't take AIPAC money, but she went on a trip organized by AIPAC. So no, she didn't take AIPAC money, but she casted a vote a couple days ago that AIPAC literally wrote a letter and thanked the House for. So, there she go. When this was written, this came out in my inbox January 15th. Yesterday, Congress voted to send another $3.3 billion in security assistance to Israel, cut off humanitarian funding to UNRWA, which is the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Northeast, and banned American funding to ICC, ICJ, and UN Commission of Inquiry related to Israel. Mind you, the ICJ, I believe, and the ICC has an arrest warrant out for Benjamin Netanyahu for the war criminal he is. But Jasmine voted to not only send $3.3 billion in security assistance to Israel, she voted to cut off humanitarian funding from UNRWA, because before she was like, well, yeah, they're pulling up my voting record and saying I voted to send money to Israel, but also I voted for an aid package to send money to Sudan and Haiti and Palestine. Well, this does just the opposite. Sent the money to Israel. The vote also voted to cut off humanitarian funding to UNRWA that's aid towards Palestinian refugees, and voted to ban American funding to the ICC, ICJ, and UN Commission of Inquiry into Israel, all international organs of justice that are meant to stop genocide, prosecute war criminals. She voted to ban American funding to those bodies. This was the fiscal year 2026 state foreign ops funding bill folded into HR 7006. Jasmine Crockett voted for this bill along with the usual centrist Texas Democrats, including Henley Cellular, Vicente Gonzalez, and Julie Johnson, to name a few. AIPAC later celebrated it. This is the press release that AIPAC released, thanking the House for passing a funding bill including full security assistance to Israel, along with other key pro-Israel provisions. AIPAC applauds the House of Representatives for passing critical pro-Israel provisions, including $3.3 billion in security assistance to Israel in the fiscal year 2026. So yeah, this is what they do. Right? Look at this. A prohibition, this is what was in the bill. A prohibition on funds to the ICC, ICJ, and which is the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice, and the UN Commission of Inquiry into Israel, which is a clear demonstration of American opposition to these international organizations that abuse their platforms to demonize the Jewish state and also threaten American troops. And then we go into the article is really good. It's really, really thorough. The last thing I'll read from this in particular one is Tallarico's history with Israel-Palestine. It says when Tallarico launched his Senate campaign, it wasn't long before Politico ran a hit piece on him, linking him to PAC money from Israeli American conservative with Trump and AIPAC ties Miriam Adelson during his 2024 Texas House run. So not in this race, but the race to win the seat that he's in now in the House, in the Texas House. It was somewhat a distortion of the truth because, and the author says, we talked about this a few months ago, whether or not we wanted to legalize gambling in Texas. So Tallarico took money from the Texas Sands PAC, a casino-specific PAC funded by Miriam Adelson. This PAC was 100% about legalizing gambling in Texas and had nothing to do with Israel or AIPAC. Moreover, other Democrats took money from this PAC that same year. Oh, Vincent Jones, that's my dude. But yeah, these are other Democrats that took that money. During his 2026 Senate run, Tallarico has vowed to not take any corporate PAC money, including AIPAC, and he has not. He described the situation in Gaza as deeply disturbing. He said that as a Christian, a teacher, and a human being, he feels morally sickened by the violence and by the United States' role in it, which he said makes Americans complicit. He framed the crisis in Gaza as a moral and spiritual emergency, arguing that it demands action rather than indifference. He stated that if elected, he would use every available diplomatic and financial tool to end what he described as atrocities in Gaza. He reiterated his support for banning offensive weapons towards Israel and said the United States has a unique moral responsibility and unique leverage to stop the death and destruction. Now, Tallarico and Crockett both want to send defensive weapons to Israel, meaning the Iron Dome that protects, that essentially, what do they say? If other countries are trying to bomb Israel, the Iron Dome and the missiles that are a part of the Iron Dome, the defense capabilities, it will disarm those bombs before it can get to Israel. The issue with saying, I'm only sending defensive, not offensive. So I'm not sending the offensive bombs to actually bomb them, but I'm going to send the defensive ones so Israel as a nation state can protect itself and its citizens. The issue with that and the fact that it's a sneaky little loophole is the fact that Israel is a bully. They talk about the fact that, oh, it's the size of New Jersey. It's the smallest vulnerable democracy in the Middle East. One that has second-tier citizenship for its Palestinian inhabitants. But okay. One that has a system of apartheid, one that has a system of ethnic cleansing and genocide. But it's the only most vulnerable small bean little fucking democracy in the Middle East. Okay. Israel's a bully. Israel has bombed South Lebanon, Syria, Iran. They literally, they're neighbors. And then they run to Daddy US for money to defend against that. And that's really the only leverage point that we have with Israel. I mean, it's not the only leverage point, but think about what a leverage point it could be to say, unless you stop the genocide, unless you literally you stop the ethnic cleansing, unless you restore basically citizenship, equal citizenship for everybody else, until you stop the mass starvation, until you stop the blockade, we are not going to give you weapons to defend yourself against neighbors that pissed you off. So if you want defense, you better fucking play ball. That's a leverage point that you have. But they try to split hairs and make the difference distinguishable, but both are still moves that are complicit in carrying on what Israel is carrying on. So I just wanted to make that distinction. And then also in an email to Jewish supporters in Texas recently, Tallarico laid out his plan, which has drawn the ire of progressive Democrats and leftists. He repeats that October 7th was the deadliest days for Jews since the Holocaust. Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state. He basically triangulates Benjamin Netanyahu and says Benjamin Netanyahu is the bad guy and his extremist government is the bad guy, not the whole ethnic cleansing project to create Israel in the first place. And then he supports a two-state solution, saying Hamas and other terrorist groups must be removed from power. Sovereignty must be respected for both nations. Israel must halt illegal settlements and recognize the Palestinian state, which is good. Most people don't even talk about the settlements. Palestinian leaders must recognize Israel and reject violence. But Israel don't have to reject violence? Okay. Excuse me. And to further flesh out the criticism of this letter was that it recenters Israel's legitimacy, justifying occupation. Even if he later criticizes Netanyahu or supports limiting offensive weapons, that self-defense framing was painted as a rhetorical cover for asymmetrical state violence. Like Hamas and the state of Israel are not on the same fucking level of capability. Gaza doesn't have a military. They don't even have an airport. Israel is being funded by the US. Billions of dollars in aid packages being sent. They are not on the same level as Hamas. And Hamas is a retaliatory, like, what do they call it? Like a rebellion against the occupation. It's basically like kids who were orphaned because their parents were killed by fucking Israel and they grew up and they're like freedom fighters, essentially. They're like, fighting against occupying forces in their fucking home. So yeah, like they created that situation. The letter also centers Hamas as the main obstacle, treating Palestinian political reality as a security problem first, rather than treating occupation, settlements, blockade as the primary drivers. Like if there was no genocide, if there was no occupation, if there was no settlements, if there was no blockade of aid, if there was no mass ethnic cleansing campaigns, there would be no Hamas. There would be no tension. That's the issue. And then they go on to say, you also have to remember, as we discussed earlier, a growing chunk of the left believes two-state is no longer viable. I am one of those leftists as well. I think a one-state solution is the only thing that can actually work there. They've proven, Israel has proven that they cannot maintain an equitable, democratic state, two-state with human rights. It's like separate but equal. And that's why it's like you got the pastor or the seminarian and the civil rights attorney supporting a state that has separate but equal, has Jim Crow level like apartheid. Like, you bitches are fucking ridiculous. So endorsing a two-state solution reads as an endorsement of the architecture that's helped to freeze Palestinian rights out of the equation. Tallarico has also not called what's happened in Gaza a genocide or apartheid, and neither has his opponent. Then the article goes on to talk about Kim Paxton and John Cornyn's policies, ideas, and just the fact that this is more of a conversation about how on Israel and Palestine, the base has already moved. The base was moving under Biden. Let's be clear. They were calling him Genocide Joe. Like at first, maybe it was like the leftist flank, but then it was like 71% of the fucking base. And so this, I like how they frame this as, Democratic voters have already done the moral and political work of reevaluating American foreign policy towards Israel. We've said no more. And so they say, she says, what remains unresolved is whether Democratic leadership will catch up or will continue to treat that shift as a messaging problem rather than a governing one. Because like I said, Tallarico is leaps and bounds better rhetorically than Jasmine. But when it comes to governance, they're still kind of the same. And so I suggest y'all go ahead and read this, subscribe. They also have some last day to register to vote is February 2nd. So that was yesterday. First day to early vote is February 17th. And then the primary election is March 3rd, 2026. Lastly, we're going to go through because we're coming up on 2 hours. I want to show you one more from the Lone Star Left because it's about the debate. My partner and I, Mogo, watched the debate. It was pretty meh. Again, this is another article by Michelle H. Davis called Wait, Are We the Radicals? A Texas primary, a shifting center, and an uncomfortable question. So she basically, talks about some polling. Let me see. Hold on. Let me zoom in. Let me zoom out real quick. So she goes through the different kind of like major talking points from the debate. Abolish ICE, universal basic income, Gaza, Israel, and just some of the insights that she found after watching the debate 3 times. And she says, let me make this also clear. Ken Paxton wants to kill you. Either candidate is a million times better than Ken Paxton. So this isn't a knock on either. So as much as an analysis on their policies. So let's be clear. Like, we're going to vote blue no matter who, unironically, in the primary and the general. But I also noticed that Jasmine took a couple swipes at Tallarico during the debate. But I also just wanted to, okay, here we go. So at the end, is this the end? So like basically in the middle of the article, she does a really good job. Like I said, she watched the debate 3 times. She did a really good job of synthesizing what each candidate believes and who she thought won on each talking point. On ICE, wait, let me see. By the way, if you missed the debate, I've watched it 3 times now, so I could give you my assessment below. On ICE, I think Tallarico was, I guess, better. He was more explicit about tearing it down, replacing it, and taking funding back to the communities. Crockett used maximal rhetoric, rogue, clean house, Proud Boys, but was less clear about the concrete lever. And neither of them said they would abolish or defund ICE. AI and workers, I would also give this one to Tallarico. He answered the union question directly. Yeah, he did talk about workplace surveillance, hiring, and promotion decisions that are being made by AI in some workplaces, and enforcement and regulation of AI. Crockett's data center grid water angle is Texas smart, but less shop floor power specific. So it just speaks less to workers. But it does make a good point. And also on Tallarico's site, he does mention the water as well. Billionaire taxes. Tallarico again, but only slightly. He's more explicitly class war populist. So billionaires are buying power and talking about corporate taxes. Crockett's solution is framed like restoring a previous bipartisan-ish equilibrium. I think that's the biggest thing for me here with Tallarico is that, he at least is taking on the billionaire class head on. And I really like that for my candidates, especially under a tech oligarchy. UBI, universal basic income, neither. Tallarico sounded more open, but neither gave the clear progressive yes. And here's why: that UBI friendly left voters want. For federal workers, Tallarico won this one and really used the right language. His answer was the clearest pro-labor agenda, including restoring jobs, raising wages, and protecting bargaining, like collective bargaining among your I'm about to say your classmates. I'm in school, sorry. Your coworkers. Crockett only described real minority party mechanics like lawsuits and oversight. Sorry, y'all, my dog is up here. I think I may have to step away to take my dog out real quick. Hold on. Uh-oh. Let's go. Go, come on, let's go. Okay, I'm back. Ghosty with the mosty. He ripped my whole my damn cord out. Hold on. Okay. Healthcare tie, both are in universal coverage territory, no clear winner. Heat protections filibuster. Oh yeah, Tallarico. He's the only one who cleanly said abolish the filibuster to pass worker protections. Crockett is carve outs reform. Gaza, Israel. Woo! I'm out of breath, but I'm trying to wrap it up because I got to go to work. We good though. We almost there. Where are we at? Oh yeah, Gaza, Israel. Even though I think they both failed in this answer, if I had to pick one, I would go with Tallarico because he said ban offensive weapons and use U.S. leverage. Crockett's enforce existing law is real, but less of a red line commitment because we're not enforcing the existing law. We need to take it a step further. That's how I feel with the ICE shit. It's like, well, let me see. That's also how I feel with the ICE shit. They're like, well, let's do body cams and let's make them follow the law. It's like, okay, well, fuck. The law already exists and they're not following it. So now what? It's time to prosecute. Fuck. Okay, war powers, Venezuela, Iran. Okay, this was a tie. Tallarico is more anti-imperial, anti-corruption. He literally said this is imperialist and this is corrupt and this is colonialist. He literally said that. I was actually surprised because, like I said, we were watching the debate live. He talked about oil executives and imperialism. Crockett is more political mechanics, so majority, war powers votes, cross-party coalition. Progressives tend to reward Tallarico's framing, but also flinch at his rogue administrative state phrasing, talking about Venezuela. Crockett gets dinged for naming Republicans. Impeachment. Crockett won this policy. She was specific and aggressive because basically she said there's more than enough to impeach Trump, and she named tariffs whenever she was pressed about it. Tallarico's refusal to name an article reads procedural cautious and less aligned with progressives' current appetite for explicit accountability. Again, someone mentioned, people just want to see that dog in him. Say, impeach the nigga. Just say it. Like sometimes you don't need to get into the weeds of the policy. Sometimes you need to just go for it, Supreme Court reform, Crockett wins here as well. She's the only one clearly in the yes, expand the courts lane, plus term limits and ethics. Tallarico is open, but non-committal. Lastly, the campaign finance donor credibility. Tallarico won with a caveat. His position is ban. Bless me. Oh, hold on. Let me get it real quick. His position: ban corporate PACs, ban super PACs, and ban stock trading. Is oh my God, is more structurally progressive than Crockett's I took capped money and I'm not bought defense, but his Sands PAC exception is a real brand stress test, and progressives will still side-eye it. He took money from a pro-gambling PAC because he thinks legalizing gambling in the state of Texas is going to be good because it's going to be a good source for tax revenue. Someone tried to pass a bill like this in Louisiana where they said we're going to take a piece of the money that we get from casinos. We're going to tax the casinos and then we're going to funnel that money back through K through 12. And I don't think that it actually passed. But in terms of he kind of wants to do the same thing here. That's at least his rationale for it, is that, if we want to legalize it, let's do it. Let's bring some jobs to the state of Texas. And also let's take some of that money and funnel it into funding, universal education for citizens in Texas, for children in Texas, which I think is good. But to Michelle's point, it's a brand stress test because it looks funny in the light because it's like pro gambling and Miriam Allison, what? But it was for his house seat. It was $59,000. And he hasn't taken any corporate money in this race. So there you go. And then there's a where do we go from here kind of wrap up, key takeaways. And again, some key dates for the race. So I wanted to bring that up because I think Michelle is a really good author and I think it's a really good Substack. They've definitely been keeping me in check and in the know. And lastly, before I read some comments and get up out of here, I wanted to just pull this up because I was looking at their websites. Crockett is Texas tough. If you go to my Patreon, we actually read through each section of their websites. There is a Meet Jasmine tab. Work closely with the Biden administration, Harris Walls campaign. Why I'm running. Her store. And join our movement. It was like volunteer or whatever. And then contact. And then you can, donate. And here's the campaign launch video. That was just like about Trump.
How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her?
She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man.
She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
Is she running against Trump? Or is she running against Ken Paxton? And is she running for Texas? And what is she running for? What is she running on? Yeah, there's that. And also bear with me adding the links in the description. I'll get it done. But I just thought that was such a weird ad. Here is Tallarico's website. Aesthetically, I like it more just because it's like more simple. 8th generation Texan, former middle school teacher, led the fight against billionaire mega donors and puppet politicians, But this is the thing that I like. Well, we've got Meet James. He talks about his life as a teacher. That's his mom who escaped his abusive dad to get a better life for them. He capped insulin at $25 a month for Texans. Why I'm running, right? Really simple, kind of boldening things that we should pay attention to. Time to start flipping tables. If you know, you know. That's the Jesus thing, the Christian Jesus thing. But this is the main difference. He's got events that we can go to. He's got volunteer opportunities, and he also has a store, right? But he's got an issues tab, and the first issue is corruption and democracy. He adds some media hits here where he's talking about the policy. Students over billionaires. Billionaires aren't just buying yachts and jets, they're buying power. He puts in another media hit on Twitter here. And then here, my priorities in the US Senate. These are his priorities. And then this is his track record. This is what he's already done. So I love that he shows this is what I want to do and this is what I have done. And then here he says, this is not a comprehensive list. If you have policy ideas you want to see from your next US Senator, please reach out here. We want to hear from you. Asking for direct constituent input. So I just wanted to show y'all that. Look, taxes, cost of living, public education, healthcare, freedom, family, faith. I liked this one. Politicians like John Cornyn and Ken Paxton claim to stand for freedom, family, and faith, but you can't stand for freedom and control what we say, what we read, and what we do with our own bodies. You can't stand for family and vote against paid family leave, affordable childcare, or the right of every American to marry who they love. And you can't stand for faith and then warp and weaponize religion to hurt our neighbors. That's just a really strong rhetorical stance that has substance, that fits within the Texas framework of freedom, family, faith, football, but also kind of flips it around and says, okay, yeah, Republicans are running on that, but this doesn't seem very freedom, family, faith, football to me. He's standing there at this press conference, protect religious freedoms, get 10 commandments out of our schools, get God out of our government. He adds another media hit here from Twitter. And then again, talks about, what his priorities are and everything. But, you know, from anything from social media, AI to border immigration, labor and business, public safety, foreign policy, rural investment, energy and environment. I mean, again, if both of these people, and then you can contribute and shit, if both of these people are just like run of the mill politicians that are sort of kind of, you know, one sort of kind of better in certain things, what is going to be the difference maker for you? What are you going to split your hairs? When you're splitting hairs, what are you looking for? And you know, I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's a white savior. I'm not just saying he's electable because he's a white man. Sorry, I'm a leftist, so none of these niggas are left enough for me. But what I am saying is there's more meat on the bone here for us to even chew. And then here is his actual campaign launch video.
The biggest divide in our country is not left versus right. It's top versus bottom. Billionaires want us looking left and right at each other so that we're not looking up at them. The people at the top work so hard to keep us angry and divided because our unity is a threat to their wealth and their power. So their social media algorithms and their cable news networks tear us apart. They divide us by party, by race, by gender, by religion, so that we don't notice that they're defunding our schools, gutting our healthcare, and cutting taxes for themselves and their rich friends. It is the oldest strategy in the world: divide and conquer. But we will not be conquered. We're underdogs in this fight. We're going up against those billionaire mega donors and their puppet politicians. We're going up against a rigged system, and we're going up against a lot of money. But I'm a former middle school teacher. I don't scare easily. And Texans don't scare easily. My granddad was a Baptist preacher in South Texas. He taught me that we follow a barefoot rabbi who gave 2 commandments: love God and love neighbor. Because there is no love of God without love of neighbor. Every single person bears the image of the sacred. Every single person is holy. Not just my neighbors who look like me, or pray like me, or vote like me. Those billionaires are trying to keep us from seeing all that we have in common. They're trying to keep us from realizing that there is far more that unites us than divides us. Because once we do, we will come together across party, across race, across gender, across religion, to take power back for ourselves and our communities. 2,000 years ago, when the powerful few rigged the system, that barefoot rabbi walked into the seat of power and flipped over the tables of injustice. To those who love this state, to those who love this country, to those who love our neighbors, it's time to start flipping tables.
I can't lie. I think aesthetically, rhetorically, and strategically, he has the better campaign. And as a poli-sci nerd myself, who has worked alongside campaigns, who's seen behind the scenes, who's worked in the Louisiana legislature for a brief stint as a messenger, who's been up and close to, you know, student organizations and, you know, even people within the like, this is just a good campaign. This is just a good campaign. Somebody mentioned he sounds recorded at all times. That's my biggest gripe. Like, nigga, your biggest gripe is that, like, you need to my biggest gripe with you is that you need to unclench and that you need to, like, before you talk and just, like, unbutton a bit. But, you know, he just is who he is. I just call him a Wonder Bear white boy because that's what he is, Wonder Bear white boy. But, you know, it's genius to pan out to the crowd instead of inwards. They know politics. They know politics, even jumping out the gate and saying, I'm not going to take payback money. Jumping out the gate and saying billionaires want us divided, but we will not be divided. Like, it's just good rhetoric. I mean, we're talking about fucking politicians here and electoral politics here. Like, obviously, it's not going to be the most genuine. You're not going to be the most get the most pure or the perfect or the activist. Even we get it, but like in terms of from the issues tab to the town halls to the media hits, the Jubilee 20v1 he did, it's been stellar, you know. And so I think he just kind of does remind you of like the run-of-the-mill politician, even though he's saying more populist things. You're like, bro, you sound and look like a damn Frankenstein between Beto and Pete Buttigieg, nigga. Unclench, drop a F-bomb, nigga. I don't know. Oh, I appreciate you. Someone said, speaking of Texas, what happened to the mega video? What mega video? If you're still in the chat, let me know what mega video you're talking about. But regardless, that's all I have for y'all today. I wanted to hop on live real quick and just chat with you. I wanted to go through the Lone Star Left articles. I wanted to go through their campaign websites briefly. I wanted to talk about all this drama between Allred and the creators and what's going on here. The day to register to vote is already passed. Early voting starts February 17th. Make sure you're voting and voting down your ballot. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts, make sure you comment below. Share this with people that are voting in Texas that maybe want to stay abreast on this. I'm not saying I'm an expert on electoral politics or whatever. I've only been here for 6 years. I'm just, dipping my toe back into kind of local state politics and in terms of just paying attention to it, like just watching from a constituent's perspective. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts. Someone said facts. Neither one of them saying Medicare for all. I think Jasmine Crockett is a co-sponsor on the Medicare for all bill, or she signed in support or something. But he's definitely running a more populist campaign. Don't trust him one bit, though. I mean, I think that's just politicians in general. So, yeah. Thank y'all so much for tapping in with me today. Hopefully, don't nobody come snatch this shit off the stream. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.